What the what the hell did I just watch? I thought I was watching a remake of Castle Freak. I thought I was just getting a nice little time killer remake. I mean, going by the trailers, I really kind of thought this was just going to be a dead teenager movie. It's not that. This is the weirdest damn horror remake maybe ever. Now, that's a bold statement, especially when you have the Suspiria remake that came out a couple of years ago, but damn.
This was my mother's house.
Yes. Our castle is yours to do with as you wish. Life here can really be surprising in ways you cannot imagine.
This is a Necronomicon.
Okay. So, a bold reimagining is what the trailer promises, and by God, you get that. So the thing about this movie is that the beginning sets you up to feel like you're just gonna watch this kind of trash, like almost 2000s era, straight to DVD horror movie. That's all it feels like. It's like they got good cameras, but they don't really know how to work them. They don't really have a good cast. It's like, yeah, so just here's some gore and some nudity and leave us alone. Here's your movie. That's how the beginning feels. It kind of recreates the beginning of the original Castle Freak a little bit. Where the woman is whipping the Castle Freak, but in this version she's only about 38, maybe, and then she's naked and masturbating, and then she gets her skull crushed. Maggots all over her face. It looked like there were real maggots on the actress's face, so kudos for that, I guess. But so at the beginning I was like, okay, this is kind of sort of what I expected, and then we get one of the most piss poor car accident stunts I've ever seen. So the flick starts out, and Rebecca, the daughter in the original film, the blind daughter, has been promoted to the lead. But so it starts with her and her boyfriend partying, and they introduce their friends who are all annoying, and then the boyfriend's an ass, and he gets hammered, and she very wisely lets him drive her home. This guy is staggering to his car, literally, and he continues drinking in the car, and she's like, I'm sure he's fine. You're good to drive, right? And of course they crash. I mean, if you saw the original Castle Freak, there's gotta be the car crash. You gotta have the blind woman. And they crash, but the crash is so hilarious. The car veers off the road, goes down a hill, and just kind of bumps over a curb. And this was a violent enough crash to tear her door off, throw her to the ground, and blind her. And I literally had to watch it twice because I was like, wait, what? Did they hit something else? Did some? I did. It logistically it doesn't match. The editing just doesn't match at all. What happened to the car is not what happened. The car aftermath. It's like two completely unrelated incidents. So that was after that I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. And the movie kind of writes itself a little bit after that. They go to the castle. In this version, it's a young couple, Rebecca and John. So Rebecca married her dad. No, they just have Rebecca and just the names for the characters from the first movie. But the dad and the daughter, they're not related. That boyfriend did look older, but no. And astonishingly, and Rebecca is such a doormat in this movie because she stays with the guy that blinded her while drunk driving by hitting a curb. But she stays with the guy. He still isn't exactly treating her well, and it kind of you sort of start to get the impression that he's just with her for money because she learns that her mother's died and she's inherited a castle. So they go to the castle in Albania, and they explore the castle, and the boyfriend's clearly trying to cash in. Like, he thinks that they're going to get rich. They're going to sell all this old stuff. They're going to sell this giant castle. They're going to make bank, and he seems to think he has some right to this stuff, even though they're not even married. So really, all this is just her money. But I guess he's... So she's trying to put a bright face on things, and to her credit, the lead actress, no one in this movie had much of a resume behind them. It was all like one or two credits. The lead actress only has 2 credits on IMDb, but she's good. She's probably the only good actor in the movie, but she is good. So she's trying to put a brave face on things. She's got this scar, and she wears her glasses. She got a kind of bluish tint to her eyes. So she's trying to be cool, but she keeps saying there's someone in this castle, and the boyfriend keeps getting angry, like, no, you're being hysterical. There's no one in the castle. Now, the boyfriend is an asshole. John is an asshole. But still, I don't. The movie doesn't justify why he's just so dead set. No, there can't possibly be anyone in the castle. Like, really? She said she heard something. Maybe you just have squatters. I mean, that's completely within the realm of possibility. But anyway, so the boyfriend's gotten on the wagon, but he immediately falls off the wagon once they get to the castle. He calls their real estate agent and asks if he can hook him up with some drugs. I guess that's as good a way to get arrested as any. Now he doesn't get arrested. I'm amazed that he didn't get arrested, but then with what we learn about the real estate agent later, it's kind of obvious. So he goes to the tunnels of the castle to get stoned. And oh, by the way, I'm gonna spoil the hell out of this movie. It's on Shudder, so just watch it if you don't want to know. But this is a bad movie, but this is a really interesting bad movie. In the last 30 minutes, this thing goes insane. It goes off the rails. I don't know what the hell happened. Like, basically, this is a movie. Just before I jump into spoilers, like hardcore spoilers. The acting's bad. The characters are annoying. The first two-thirds of the movie are pretty generic. Um, it's not a not a very close remake. It's too long. It goes on too long. The pacing's off. It's just barely barely okay. This is like, a C plus, 2 stars type of movie. It's barely a time killer. But I still recommend anybody watching this just to watch the ending. If you're bored, just skip to the ending. It won't make any more or less sense whether you've seen the first hour and 20 minutes of the movie. So anyway, so he the boyfriend scores drugs from the drug addict his real estate agent hooked him up with, and the damn dealer's like, oh, I live with my mom. Can I get high here? And he lets him. He just leaves him in the tunnel to get high, and so dealer gets high, and the castle freak who's been out the whole time. This movie doesn't have the dramatic route, escape of the castle freak. The castle freak is more like the people under the stairs. If you remember the Wes Craven movie, he just kind of lives in the walls. He's not really a prisoner exactly. He is let out at the beginning of the movie, but at the same time, it was clear that he was moving around in the walls at other points in his life. So whatever. But so the castle freak kills the dealer with who apparently was traveling with like 6 syringes on him because he gets stabbed all over the place, including both eyes with the syringes, which would have been a good effect if it had been on camera, but it's off camera, so then boyfriend invites all of their old friends, their annoying, irritating friends from the beginning of the movie, which I guess I identify as the black guy, the native guy, the slutty girl, and the professor. Now, the professor is this weird nerd with a who I hope this isn't the actor's real voice because the actor talks in such a strange way. He talks like this. Yeah, and he's a skinny little guy. I kept trying to think, are they trying to say this guy's older and the actor just isn't? No, he's just talking really weird. The pursuit of knowledge. There are multiple universes, and every universe has a version of ourselves, but these universes are frustratingly intangible. It's like I feel like he needs to be introducing one of those god awful shows on the History Channel. Aliens existed at the exact same time as the ancient Egyptians. They are the ones that built the pyramids. And like I said, the other three are just annoying. The slutty girl, of course, immediately comes in the castle and feels like she needs to take off all her clothes and look at herself in the mirror just to make sure everything's still there. Yep, still got tits, still got a vagina, still got an ass. Then real estate agent is playing Peeping Tom, and he pays for that by getting jumped by the castle freak next. Then what happens? I said the first 2/3 of this movie aren't super memorable. The boyfriend. Oh yeah. So this thing is filled with the Lovecraft references, tons of them. From the professor wears a Miskatonic University T-shirt. They find the Necronomicon just laying around the castle. They're going through it. The family's name is now Watley or Whitley. I felt like it was trying to reference Wilbur Watley from the Dunwich Horror. There's talk about the old ones. There's a bust of a guy with a Cthulhu face. You always see that famous Lovecraft drawing of him with the tentacles coming out of his mouth. There's Cthulhu uh, graffiti in the town, and there's a lot more Lovecraftian stuff later in the movie. So yeah, they were dropping those references fast. And Giorgio Garcia, or was his name George? The castle freak from the first movie, Giorgio Garcia, whatever his name was, he apparently has his own vineyard in this universe because they find a bottle of wine with his name on it. So the friends immediately start doing coke and getting drunk, and while the professor and the female lead, Rebecca, the wine girl, are studying the Necronomicon, and they're in the same room. Like, I mean, there's maybe 12, 15 feet between them, and the boyfriend comes in like, I can't believe you guys are doing coke. And the one guy says, oh, it's actually really easy to smuggle coke on an airplane. I just had it up my ass. And all the other friends are doing it like that's all right. Like, please let me have your ass blow. I'm sure it smells great. So, and he's like, she can't see, she's blind. She's not deaf. She's 12 feet away from you. It's the dumbest thing. They even go over frame and they're just over her shoulder. They're not even really whispering. So anyway, while the professor and Rebecca are studying the Necronomicon, the boyfriend's getting trashed, and he goes off to bang slutty girl Shelly. I can't believe I remember her name. And she like chains him up, and this actually kind of frustrated me because it sets you up for a really cool scene that doesn't happen. So anyone who remembers the original Castle Freak remembers the nipple eating scene where the Castle Freak eats the woman's nipple. And in this movie, the Castle Freak, because the Castle Freak had seen the Jeffrey Combs character John sucking on the breast of the prostitute. So the Castle Freak kind of emulated it, but obviously did it wrong. But so in this one, the Castle Freak sees the girl Shelly blowing John while he's in bondage. He's chained up and he's blindfolded, so he can't do anything. He can't even see what's being done to him. So I swear, I was like, oh, we're gonna see the Castle Freak bite this guy's dick off, and it doesn't happen. That was a bummer. Anyway, the Castle Freak just busts in, kills Shelly, bangs John, because in this version, the Castle Freak is a woman. The Castle Freak is female in this one, and has a monster vagina that's about as long as my forearm. That was the grodiest. You lose your whole head up that thing. I actually thought that was going to happen later in the movie. For real. But, so, Castle Freak bangs him and just leaves him. Castle Freak was cool. So, in the meantime, Professor and Rebecca are studying. They find a secret passageway, and they go through all these hallways, and the professor, they hear a sound, the professor runs like, oh, I'm going to check it out. And he runs off and leaves the blind woman in a secret passageway by herself while people are screaming. I was like, okay, well, the Castle Freak's going to find 2 seconds later, the Castle Freak comes around the corner. It's not even, there's not even any suspense to it, because I guess they just knew the viewers would see that coming from around the corner, unlike Rebecca, because she's blind. That was maybe a mean joke. But the actress isn't blind, she's fine. So the Castle Freak finds her, and they kind of do this thing where the Castle Freak sort of has a bond with Rebecca, because like in the original movie, they're actually siblings. They're sisters instead of brothers. And they do this whole backstory thing where Rebecca's grandfather raped her mother as part of a ceremony to unleash the old ones from the Necronomicon. If you're familiar with Lovecraft's the themes that constantly flow throughout his books. There are often cults that worship the great old ones, supreme beings that are sometimes seemed extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial. It's a complex mythology, and that's what fans of H.P. Lovecraft love about it, is how dense it is. Which is kind of amazing, given that he only wrote short form fiction. The only long thing he ever wrote was a novella. It still wasn't a full length novel. The Shadow over Innsmouth. Shadow over Innsmouth. His titles are a bit interchangeable, but yeah, it was that. Sorry. So Rebecca and the Castle Freak are friends now. And in the meantime, John has flipped shit because Shelly, his drunken hookup, is dead. So he gets the other 2 idiots, and they're like, we're going to get revenge. And it starts feeling like the posse from Halloween 4, like just a bunch of morons. We're going to fuck them up. You guys are going to die. You gonna die. So they charge off. One of them has a gun. I think I blinked for that part. I don't know how one of them. They presumably all would have had to fly to Albania, so I don't know where one of them had a firearm. But they find the real estate agent, who's just like his face is partially eaten, but aside from that, he's more or less okay. And he joins the posse. They split up Scooby Doo style and have the black one and the native one, the minorities, go one way, and the real estate agent and John go the other way. Guess who died first? So they charge in and they're like, "Hey, should we have a plan? Our plan is to get some revenge." And they run in there, just immediately killed, just insta kill, not even a chance, just done. Uh, and the gore effects in this movie are not very good. The makeup effects are all right. The gore effects aren't very good. So when the castle freak's eating the black guy's intestines, it basically looks like they dumped, I don't know, Chef Boyardee spaghetti on his stomach and just. So they're dead. Then Rebecca, who has a psychic link with the castle freak, starts seeing all these deranged visions of how the castle freak was born, what happened to her mother, that she was raped by the grandfather on this altar in front of all these other cult members. So, in the meantime, the castle freak encounters the professor, and the professor has become an acolyte. He's now a believer after reading the Necronomicon for an afternoon. He's completely changed everything about his worldview. They kind of try to explain that he's just thirsty for knowledge, but okay, you found a 100-year-old book. So if you had found, I don't know, Robinson Crusoe, you just want to go live on an island, or Don Quixote, you just go crazy and start throwing lances at windmills. It's so stupid. And he's saying stuff like, "Give me your knowledge, give me all of it." And the castle freak's walking around naked with its giant vagina, and I was sitting there thinking, this thing's vagina's gonna eat him, isn't it? That doesn't happen, but what does happen is a giant tentacle wraps around his head, and somehow that gives him the knowledge of everything that happened, and of the old ones. So after that, the castle freak lets him go. The castle freak has to go have its encounter with John. Now, John is jacked up on cocaine, which apparently turned him into super. I don't want to say Superman because he's still a crazy asshole. He's Super Ray Liotta. That's kind of what he reminded me of, honestly. He's like Ray Liotta, but overacting really badly. Ray Liotta, the dude from Goodfellas, the least famous of the three actors from Goodfellas. But so he goes and he's just whipping the castle freak's ass, and Rebecca goes up, "No, don't, that's my sister." And John's like, "Well, you're fucked up, and you're from a fucked up family." And he goes to attack her, and she has to defend herself, and she cracks his head open, and then she feels bad about it. If ever there was a boyfriend character in a movie that deserved to have their head cracked open, it's John in this movie. So she cracks his head open, and she feels really bad about it. But then the castle freak's like, "No, it's cool. I'll just," stomps his head, crushes it flat. And then suddenly the whole town is in the cult of Cthulhu. Well, Yog-Sothoth. They mention Cthulhu. It's Yog-Sothoth that they're actually worshiping. Yeah. And the professor is now in charge of the cult. The Americans in charge now will teach us poor Albanians how to communicate with the great old ones. And he's reading out the Necronomicon while the sky gets all digital and fake stormy. The castle freak and Rebecca go up, and Rebecca suddenly goes into labor and blood shoots out of her, and then there's an eyeball in her vagina. And then the movie ends. Sure. So, when I saw Suspiria in theaters, I took a friend of mine who didn't know much about it. And after walking out of it, he said, "Dude, what in the fuck did you just make me watch?" I would have definitely gotten that response out of him if this thing had gone theatrical. I kind of want to make him watch this movie just to watch the look of horror in his eyes. Although I don't think he's going to forgive me for making him watch Antebellum. I think that one might have killed my movie privileges with him for a while. But this movie's insane. This movie's hilarious. Oh, the other thing I predicted was so they have their requisite meeting with the superstitious old person in the town that kind of exposition dumps all over him. And he goes up, John, this is about in the middle of the movie, so John goes up to this crazy old lady and says, "We're selling some stuff in the castle, if anybody wants to come by," and they're like, "We don't want anything from the castle." He goes, "No, the castle is full of treasures." And she goes, "The castle is full." And I'm sitting there thinking, the castle's full of evil. And then she actually says it, "The castle castle is full of evil. Oh my god. This movie's too weird to even hate. I kind of enjoyed it. If it had a leaner runtime, if this was an hour and 20 minutes instead of an hour and 40 minutes, I could probably give this a pass just on sheer insanity. Pretty Women, because actually all three of the principal female characters are naked. Four if you count the castle freak. Yeah, that foot-long vagina. If that does it for you, you get plenty of that. So it has Pretty Women. It has gore. It's not especially well done gore. It has some laughably bad acting, which was kind of funny, especially the professor. I want the professor to read H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu's on an audiobook. Just do the whole thing in that voice. But and the professor, he looks like such a twerp. He reminded me of Justin Bieber. But yeah, I just my mind was blown by this one. I had to do something about. I had to talk about it. Barbara Crampton, please produce more remakes of classic movies. Remakes are usually crap, but if they can at least be interesting crap, I'm on board. I was disappointed Barbara Crampton didn't have a cameo in this. If she's a producer, the woman looks amazing. She should have been in it. Why wasn't she in it? But yeah, maybe we'll get a Castle Freak too. So that's the Castle Freak remake. Yeah. In closing, I'm gonna try and get more serious about this channel. It is just a hobby, but I'm gonna try and do a bit more with it. I'm gonna do my goal is to do a new video every Tuesday and Thursday. Just see if I can build up some viewership. So if you liked what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Share, especially comment. Yeah, let me know what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. Anyway, see you.